At my daughter's wedding rehearsal dinner in Napa Valley, the groom's father pulled me aside with a desperate whisper. Pretend we don't know each other. I was stunned when I suddenly recognized the man as Finn, my old college friend. His hands were trembling as he leaned closer, his eyes filled with fear. What he revealed next not only made my jaw drop, but completely changed everything I thought I knew about this wedding. Comment below where you're watching this from and what time it is right now. Because at that rehearsal dinner in Napa Valley, I thought I was just celebrating my daughter's happiness. I had no idea I was walking into a nightmare. The rehearsal dinner at Silverado Resort was everything Isley had dreamed of. Golden lights, Napa Valley views, and guests celebrating tomorrow's wedding. I stood watching my 26-year-old daughter glow with happiness, wishing her mother Margaret could see this moment. Dad, you look emotional. Isley laughed, squeezing my arm. Save some tears for tomorrow. Just thinking about Mom, I said, forcing a smile. Cruz's family had flown in from Phoenix. His father, Richard, was a real estate developer, his mother, Patricia, a former ballet instructor turned philanthropist. They were impressive, successful, perfect. Almost too perfect. Mr. Bennett, a server approached. The gentleman at table 6 would like to speak with you. I glanced over to see Richard Whitman gesturing toward the terrace's quieter side. As I approached, something about him seemed familiar. The way he held his shoulders, his jawline. When he turned fully toward me, my blood ran cold. Jesus Christ, Finn Rodriguez, my college fraternity brother from UT Austin, looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face went pale as he grabbed my arm. Pretend we don't know each other, he whispered urgently. What the hell are you doing here? I managed keeping my voice low. Listen carefully, Finn said, eyes darting around nervously. I was hired to play his father. This whole family is fake. The words hit me like ice water. What are you talking about? I don't know the details, but something's very wrong. Your family is in serious danger. His voice was barely audible. They're watching me. I can't say more, but we need a plan. My legs felt unsteady. Finn, this is my daughter's wedding. Whatever they want from your family, it's worth hiring professional actors for. He glanced toward Cruz, who was laughing with Isley. That boy isn't who he says he is, and neither is anyone else at that table. What kind of danger? The kind that requires this level of deception. Finn's eyes met mine with deadly seriousness. Tomorrow, at the wedding, right before the vows, you're going to collapse. Make it look like a stroke. Are you insane? It's the only way to buy us time to figure out what they're really after. He pulled out his phone, pretending to show me photos. I'll handle the medical emergency, get you to a hospital. Isley will postpone everything, then we investigate. I looked across the terrace at my daughter, radiating joy as she showed off her engagement ring. The thought of destroying this moment made me sick. But the fear in Finn's eyes was real, and 30 years in business had taught me to trust my instincts. How do I know you're not part of whatever this is? Because I'm risking everything to warn you. Finn's grip tightened on my arm. Cole, I've been acting for 20 years. I know when someone's playing a role, and every single person at that table is performing. The weight of his words settled over me like a dark cloud. Tomorrow at the wedding, you collapse, Finn repeated quietly. Right after Isley starts walking down the aisle. I'll handle the rest. And then we stop this wedding from happening. His voice was firm but gentle. Cole, you're my friend. I can't let whatever they're planning happen to your family. As I walked back toward the celebration, forcing myself to smile and make small talk, one thought echoed in my mind. Tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of my daughter's life. Instead, it was going to be the day I potentially saved it. The morning sun streamed through St. Helena's chapel as I stood beside Isley in her grandmother's vintage lace gown. She looked radiant, but my heart was pounding for all the wrong reasons. You okay, Dad? She whispered. You look pale. Just emotional, I managed, though I felt like I was about to jump out of an airplane. The string quartet began, and 200 guests rose. I glanced toward the altar, where Cruz stood in his perfect tuxedo, that $1,000,000 smile fixed in place. Beside him, Finn, playing Richard Whitman, looked appropriately paternal. Only I could see the tension in Finn's shoulders. Ready, sweetheart? I asked. I've been ready my whole life, Isley beamed. We began the slow walk down the rose-petal aisle. Isley glowed with happiness, nodding to friends and family. I forced myself to smile while my mind raced through what I was about to do. Halfway down the aisle, I caught Cruz's eye. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Impatience. Maybe annoyance before the loving groom mask slipped back. First red flag. We were almost to the altar when I made my move. I can't. Something's wrong. I gasped, clutching my chest. Isley turned toward me in alarm. Dad! I stumbled, then collapsed hard onto the marble floor, making sure to sell the performance. The chapel erupted in gasps and screams. Call 911, someone shouted. Dad, Isley's scream cut through everything. Through half-closed eyes, I watched Cruz's reaction. For exactly 2 seconds, he stood frozen, not with shock, but with calculation. His eyes darted to Finn, then to me, then back to Isley before the concerned son-in-law mask snapped into place. Get back! Give him air! Finn commanded, taking charge like the professional actor he was. He knelt beside me, checking my pulse. Someone call an ambulance. Is he going to be okay? Isley sobbed, dropping beside me. We need to get him to a hospital, Finn said grimly. Now! As paramedics loaded me onto a stretcher, I caught Cruz stepping away from the crowd phone pressed to his ear. Change of plans, he said quietly. We'll have to do this differently. At the hospital, after my miraculous recovery from the mild episode, Isley was inconsolable. We have to postpone everything, she said through tears. I can't get married while Dad's sick. Of course, sweetheart, Cruz said, rubbing her shoulders. Your father's health comes first. But I caught the flash of irritation that crossed his face when he thought no one was looking. Don't worry about anything, Cruz continued, his voice dripping with false concern. I'll help take care of your dad while he recovers. It's what family does. The way he said family made my skin crawl. I can come by tomorrow, he offered. Make sure you're both settling in okay. Isley squeezed his hand gratefully. You're so thoughtful. As we drove home later, Isley kept glancing at me with worry. Dad, you really scared me today. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just got overwhelmed by the moment. But I wasn't fine, not even close, because I'd just seen something in Cruz's eyes that no loving son-in-law should ever have. The only thing I knew for certain was that my daughter's perfect fiancé had just revealed himself to be something else entirely. Something dangerous. 48 hours after my stroke, Cruz arrived carrying grocery bags and wearing the most concerned expression I'd ever seen. Too concerned. How are you feeling today, Cole? He asked, setting bags on my kitchen counter like he owned the place. Still weak, I replied from my recliner, playing the recovering patient while watching his every move. That moment of calculation at the wedding kept replaying in my mind. Finn's warning echoed. This whole family is fake. Isley's at work, so I thought I'd check on you, Cruz said, unpacking groceries. Maybe make you some tea. While he worked in the kitchen, his eyes weren't on the tea. They were scanning my home artwork furniture family photos. His gaze lingered on my bookshelf, where I kept my safe behind a false panel. Where's your home office? He asked, casually bringing me tea. In case Isley needs any important documents while you're recovering. Red flag. Upstairs, I said, watching his face. Insurance papers, wills, that sort of thing. Why would you need to know that? Just thinking ahead, Cruz smiled. You gave us quite a scare. Isley's worried about organization, just in case. Just in case I die, I'll handle my own affairs, I said firmly. His smile flickered before returning. Of course, just trying to help. I closed my eyes, pretending to doze. That's when he moved around, opening cabinets, checking drawers. Papers rustled from my desk area. Then his phone buzzed. Yeah, I'm in, he said quietly. Give me a week. A pause. The old man's assets are bigger than we thought. This is going to be worth it. My blood ran cold, but I kept breathing steady. After Cruz left, promising to check tomorrow, I immediately called Finn. He was casing the house, I told him. Looking for my safe, asking about documents, going through my stuff. And I heard a phone call he's working with someone. What kind of phone call? Something about my assets being bigger than expected. Finn, I need your help with something. Can you get surveillance equipment? Surveillance. If he's planning something, we need proof. I'm thinking Cameron's kitchen where he made tea. Living room, my study. Can you help me set that up? Cole, that's actually brilliant, Finn said. I know exactly what we need. 2 hours later, Finn arrived with a duffel bag of equipment. You were right about strategic placement, he said, pulling out tiny cameras. Kitchen for sure, he spent a lot of time there. Your study where the safe is. Living room for general coverage. We worked quickly. Finn installed cameras while I directed placement based on Cruz's behavior patterns. Motion activated. Finn explained, showing me the phone app. Records everything uploads to cloud storage automatically. What are we looking for exactly? Whatever he's really planning, that phone call proves he's not working alone. How much danger am I in? The kind that requires fake families and long-term cons. Finn tested camera angles. But now we're ready for him. As Finn packed up, I felt a surge of determination. I'd spent 30 years reading people in business. Time to put those skills to work. Tomorrow when he comes back, we'll be watching, I said, and we'll finally know what Cruz Whitman really wants from your family. I was watching the live camera feed on my laptop when I saw something that made my blood freeze. Cruz was in my kitchen, and he wasn't just making tea. He was crushing white pills into my Earl Grey. Son of a bitch, I whispered, watching him grind what looked like medication with the back of a spoon before stirring the powder into my afternoon tea. Yesterday's camera setup was already paying off. Cruz appeared in my living room moments later, carrying the steaming cup with that same concerned smile. "How are you feeling today, Cole? I made your favorite." "Much better, thank you," I said, accepting the tea with steady hands while my heart hammered against my ribs. I brought the cup to my lips, pretended to take a sip, then set it down. "Actually, let me just rest my eyes for a moment." While Cruz busied himself organizing my magazines, I carefully tipped the cup, letting the poisoned tea spill into the potted plant beside my chair. "You're not drinking your tea?" Cruz observed after 20 minutes. "Still feeling a bit nauseous," I lied. "Maybe later." I caught the flash of frustration that crossed his face. He'd expected me to be drowsy, confused, maybe even unconscious by now. "You seem remarkably alert today," he said, studying me carefully. "Just having a good day, I guess." After Cruz left, I immediately called a private investigator I'd used for business deals, a former cop named Janet Morrison who specialized in background checks. "I need everything you can find on Cruz Whitman," I told her, "and I mean everything." "Give me 4 hours," Janet said. While waiting, I reviewed the camera footage. The poisoning was clear as day, Cruz grinding pills, stirring them into my tea, watching me expectantly while I pretended to drink. "But what kind of pills and why?" Janet called back sooner than expected. "Cole, we have a problem. There's no record of Cruz Whitman in any database. No birth certificate, no social security number, no credit history. The man doesn't exist." "That's impossible." "Not if he's using a fake identity." I dug deeper and ran facial recognition through law enforcement databases. Her voice was grim. "Your daughter's fiancé is actually Jake Rivers, wanted in 3 states for elder fraud." The room started spinning. "Elder fraud. He's got a pattern. Targets wealthy families. Specifically older family members. 4 previous marriages that we can document. Each time the elderly family member dies under mysterious circumstances, usually appears natural, like heart failure or stroke. The spouse inherits, then disappears with the money." Jesus Christ. "Cole, this guy is a professional. His victims lost a combined $30 million. 12 people are dead because of him." I stared at the plant where I'd poured the poisoned tea. Its leaves were already starting to wilt. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" "Based on his previous patterns, you're supposed to be dead within 2 weeks. Maybe less." After hanging up, I sat in my chair, staring at that dying plant. Cruz Jake, whoever the hell he was, had been trying to kill me. And if I'd actually drunk that tea... My phone buzzed with a text from Cruz Hope. "You're feeling better. See you tomorrow. Maybe we can try a different tea blend." He'd noticed the plant. He knew I hadn't been drinking the poison, which meant tomorrow he'd probably try something stronger. I looked at the camera app on my phone, then at the withering plant that had saved my life by revealing the truth. Jake Rivers had killed 12 people for their money, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated a father protecting his daughter. Cruz arrived the next morning with different energy, more determined, aggressive. I could see it in his eyes as he unpacked groceries. The game was changing. "How are we feeling today, Cole?" His tone had an edge I hadn't heard before. Better I lied, knowing from camera footage exactly what he was planning. Through the live feed, I watched him crush twice as many white pills into my Earl Grey. The lorazepam dose had doubled. He was getting desperate. "Here's your afternoon tea," Cruz said with that fake smile. I pretended to drink while secretly pouring it into the same plant, now completely brown and dying. Cruz noticed immediately. "That plant doesn't look good," he said, studying the withered leaves. "Maybe we should try a different spot." If he was escalating, I needed to give him what he expected, a confused, declining old man. Over the next few days, Cruz began moving my belongings. Reading glasses to different tables, medications to wrong cabinets, car keys to strange places. When Isley visited Thursday, Cruz was ready. "Your dad had a rough day," he told her quietly. "He called me Margaret this morning." Isley's face crumpled. Margaret was her mother's name. "He did what—" I found him staring at the wall for over an hour, completely lost. None of this had happened, but Isley didn't know that. "Dad, how are you feeling?" she said, kneeling beside my chair. I had to make the hardest choice of my life. To protect her, I had to let her think I was losing my mind. Isley. When did you get here, sweetheart? I made my voice sound uncertain. The pain in her eyes nearly broke me. Dad, I've been here 10 minutes. We were just talking. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I must have forgotten. Cruz watched with satisfaction. It's happening more frequently. The stroke affected his memory. For the next hour, I pretended to forget conversations. Misplaced items Cruz had hidden act, increasingly disoriented. Every confused look I gave my daughter felt like a knife in my chest. Maybe we should get him checked by a specialist, Cruz suggested as Isley wiped tears. Excellent neurologists understand post-stroke complications. Do you think that's necessary? Your father deserves the best care, Cruz said, hand on her shoulder. The sooner we address this, the better. Isley looked at me with worry and love. Dad, you seem so different since the stroke. Forgetting things, getting confused. I asked, not having to fake the pain in my voice. Yes, Dad, it's scaring me. Cruz stepped closer. I know an excellent neurologist, very discreet, very understanding of family situations like this. The way he said family situations made my skin crawl. He wasn't talking about medical care, he meant legal guardianship, power of attorney control over my assets. If you think it would help, Isley said reluctantly, I'll set up an appointment. Cruz smiled. As they made plans for my fake evaluation, I realized Cruz had won the first major battle. My own daughter now believed I was losing my mind, and tomorrow he'd introduce me to a neurologist who would make it official. Dr. Williams arrived at my home Tuesday morning carrying a leather medical bag that looked expensive and official. As he shook my hand with practiced warmth, I realized this was Cruz's endgame setup. Mr. Bennett, I understand you've been having some difficulties since your stroke, he said, setting up what looked like legitimate cognitive testing materials on my dining table. Cole knew he had to play along to survive. Some confusion, yes, I replied, glancing at Isley, who sat nearby, wringing her hands with worry. Let's start with some simple exercises, Dr. Williams said, pulling out cards with shapes and numbers. Can you tell me what day it is? The examination was a masterpiece of medical theater. Dr. Williams asked me to remember sequences I was never given, solve puzzles with missing pieces, and identify objects he'd deliberately obscured. Every test was designed for failure. Now, Mr. Bennett, I want you to draw a clock showing 3:15, he said, handing me paper and pencil. I drew a perfect clock, but he frowned as if I'd scribbled nonsense. Interesting, he murmured, making notes. What does that mean? Isley asked anxiously. Let me finish the evaluation first, Dr. Williams said with practiced bedside manner. After an hour of rigged tests, he delivered his verdict with appropriate gravity. I'm afraid the stroke has caused significant cognitive decline, he told Isley while I sat there supposedly too confused to understand. Early-stage dementia with rapid progression. Without immediate intervention, his condition will deteriorate quickly. Isley's face crumpled. How quickly? Months, not years, and he'll need specialized care soon. Cruz, who'd been watching silently, stepped forward with perfectly timed concern. What kind of intervention? Legal protection of his assets is crucial, Dr. Williams said. Patients in his condition often make poor financial decisions. Family members need to step in. As if on cue, Cruz produced a folder of legal documents. I took the liberty of having these prepared by an attorney friend. Just basic power of attorney forms to protect your father's interests. I don't know, Isley hesitated. Sweetheart, Cruz said gently, this isn't about taking anything from your dad. It's about protecting what he's worked so hard to build, making sure no one can take advantage of his condition. The irony was sickening. Dr. Williams nodded sagely. It's the responsible thing to do. I've seen too many families lose everything because they waited too long. Through tears, Isley signed the documents. Then they turned to me. Dad, we need you to sign these too, Isley said, her voice breaking. It's to protect you. With a trembling hand, I signed away legal control of my finances to the man planning to kill me. Cruz watched every signature with barely contained satisfaction. There's Cruz said, collecting the papers. Now we can make sure you get the best possible care. After Dr. Williams left with his fee paid in cash by Cruz, I overheard a phone conversation that chilled me to the bone. Yes, we'll need a secure facility, Cruz said quietly, thinking I was napping. Memory care unit. He won't be coming back home. Through the camera app on my phone, I watched him research nursing homes that specialized in patients with severe dementia and no family visitors. Later that evening, as Isley prepared to leave, She knelt beside my chair with tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Dad. I have to do this to protect you. I know you don't understand, but I'm trying to do what's best." The pain in her voice was genuine. She truly believed she was saving me. After she left, Cruz lingered, studying me with cold calculation. "Don't worry, old man," he said, his mask finally slipping completely. "Your suffering will end soon enough." As he walked away, I realized I'd reached the lowest point of this nightmare. My daughter believed I was losing my mind. A fake doctor had declared me incompetent, and Cruz now had legal authority over everything I owned. But he'd made one crucial mistake. In his arrogance, he'd forgotten about the cameras recording his every word, including his promise that my suffering would end soon. I was reviewing camera footage when I overheard Cruz on a phone call that made my skin crawl. "Tomorrow morning," he said quietly, thinking I was napping. "Make it look natural." It was time to fight back. The past week had been a careful dance of deception. Cruz believed he had complete control, legal authority over my assets, a fake medical diagnosis, and a daughter who trusted him more than her own father. But he'd underestimated one crucial thing. I was still recording everything. 4 milligrams should do it, Cruz continued into his phone. "At his age, it'll look like heart failure. Natural causes." Through the camera feed, I watched him in my kitchen crushing white pills with methodical precision. This wasn't the usual 2 milligram dose of lorazepam he'd been using to confuse me. This was quadruple the amount, enough to stop my heart. I immediately texted Finn, "It's time, get the police ready." Within an hour, Finn was at my back door with his laptop compiling weeks of evidence. "Look at this," he said, showing me video after video. "We've got him crushing pills into your tea, moving your belongings to make you seem confused, coaching that fake doctor, and now planning your murder." The footage was damning. Cruz talking about my bigger assets than expected. The fake Dr. Williams conducting rigged cognitive tests. Cruz researching nursing homes with no family visitors. And now the final piece, him preparing a lethal dose while discussing how to make my death look natural. "The police," I asked. "Detective Morrison is standing by. She's seen the preliminary footage and has a warrant ready." Finn's expression was grim. "Cole, this guy has killed 12 people. Tomorrow he's planning to make you number 13. We spent the evening preparing for what would either be Cruz's arrest or my actual death. The plan was simple but terrifying. I would have to pretend to drink the poisoned tea while Finn and the police waited nearby. "What if something goes wrong?" I asked. "It won't," Finn said, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "We'll have paramedics on standby, and Detective Morrison will move in the moment you give the signal." As night fell, I reviewed the camera footage one more time. Cruz had spent hours researching heart failure in elderly patients and natural death after stroke. He'd even called the nursing home to cancel my admission, telling them there had been a family emergency. The most chilling moment came when he practiced his grief-stricken son-in-law routine in front of my bathroom mirror. "I did everything I could," he rehearsed. "The stroke just took too much out of him. At least he's at peace now." My phone buzzed with a text from Cruz. "See you bright and early tomorrow, Cole. I'm bringing your favorite Earl Grey." I stared at that message for a long time. Tomorrow morning, Cruz would walk into my house expecting to commit murder. Instead, he'd walk into a trap that would finally bring justice for all his victims. "By tomorrow night, this nightmare will be over," I told Finn as he packed up his equipment. "And Cruz will be in custody where he belongs," Finn replied. But as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake one terrifying thought. Cruz had successfully killed 12 people before me. He was a professional who'd perfected his technique over years of practice. What if tomorrow morning, despite all our preparation, he actually succeeded? Morning arrived with Cruz at my door, carrying his usual concerned smile and a steaming cup of Earl Grey. But this time I was ready for the performance of my lifetime. "Good morning, Cole," he said, settling the tea on my side table with practiced care. "How are we feeling today?" "Tired," I replied, playing the confused old man one last time. Through the window, I could see Detective Morrison's unmarked car parked across the street. Finn was positioned in my kitchen laptop, ready with weeks of damning footage. "I brought your favorite tea," Cruz said, his eyes watching me intently. "The Earl Grey you love so much." I reached for the cup with trembling hands, knowing it contained enough lorazepam to stop my heart. As I brought it to my lips, Cruz leaned forward expectantly. I pretended to take a long sip, then set the cup down. "Thank you, son." The word son made his smile widen. He thought he'd won. "Cole, I've been thinking about your care situation," Cruz began, but his words were cut short by the sound of my front door opening. Finn walked in with Detective Morrison and 2 uniformed officers, his laptop in hand. "What's going on?" Cruz demanded, his mask slipping for the first time. Isley, you need to see this, Finn said as my daughter appeared behind the officer's, confusion written across her face. Dad, what's happening? Finn opened his laptop and pressed play. The screen filled with crystal-clear footage of Cruz crushing pills into my tea, coaching the fake doctor, Williams, and making phone calls about my bigger assets than expected. Isley's face went white as she watched weeks of calculated deception unfold before her eyes. Oh my God, she whispered as the video showed Cruz researching heart failure in elderly patients. Oh my God, what have I done? The final clip played Cruz on camera saying 4 milligrams should stop his heart within an hour. Problem solved permanently. That's not... I can explain... Cruz stammered, backing toward the door. Jake Rivers, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy, Detective Morrison announced, stepping forward with handcuffs. Jake Rivers, Isley looked between Cruz and the officers. Who's Jake Rivers? Your fiancé's real name, Detective Morrison said. He's wanted in 3 states for elder fraud. 12 people are dead because of him. Cruz made a desperate lunge for the back door, but the uniformed officers were ready. As they wrestled him to the ground, he screamed at Isley. You don't understand. I needed that money. Your father has millions just sitting there. Isley stared at the man she'd almost married, watching him reveal his true nature in the most horrible way possible. Dad, she said, turning to me with tears streaming down her face. I gave him power of attorney. I almost helped him murder you. I stood up from my chair, no longer pretending to be weak, and pulled my daughter into my arms. You were trying to protect me, I said, holding her tight. You couldn't have known, but I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you instead of him. As Cruz was led away in handcuffs, still screaming about the money he'd never get to steal, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion wash over me. The nightmare was finally over. My daughter was safe, and Jake Rivers would never hurt another family. But the real shock came 6 months later at his trial. The courtroom was packed as Jake Rivers stood before the judge, no longer the charming Cruz Whitman who nearly destroyed my family. The prosecutor's voice echoed through the chamber as she read the charges that would finally bring justice. Your Honor, the defendant used this exact method on 4 other families before targeting the Bennetts. What came next shocked even me. The Henderson family in Miami, the father died of apparent heart failure. $8 million stolen. The prosecutor's voice was steady, but I could hear the anger underneath. Margaret Henderson, 73, died believing her son-in-law loved her family. The Washington family in Seattle, the grandfather's sudden heart attack at age 68. $12 million vanished. Another family destroyed by the man sitting 20 feet away from me. The Kowalski family in Chicago, the grandmother's unexpected stroke at 71. $6 million missing. I thought about other daughters like Isley, other fathers who hadn't been as lucky as me. The Patel family in Phoenix, the uncle's natural death at 65. $4 million stolen. The pattern was sickeningly consistent. Jake Rivers had perfected the art of murdering families from the inside. In total, the prosecutor continued, the defendant stole over $30 million and caused the deaths of 12 innocent people who trusted him as family. Judge Martinez's voice cut through the courtroom like steel. Mr. Rivers, your systematic targeting of families makes you one of the most dangerous predators this court has ever seen. I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. As Jake was led away in shackles, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, but 12 families would never get their loved ones back. 6 months later, Finn started a new life, with my help, legitimate acting work, and a chance to make amends. Isley and I grew closer than we'd been since her mother died, bonded by the truth that almost destroyed us. Dad, she told me recently, I'll never ignore my instincts about people again, and I'll never stop fighting to protect the people I love, I replied. Looking back, this experience taught me that family trust is both precious and fragile. Sometimes protecting the people you love means making the hardest choices of your life, even when those choices might hurt them in the short term. Finn proved that second chances matter for people who genuinely want to change. But Jake Rivers showed us that some people see family bonds as nothing more than opportunities for exploitation. The most important lesson: always listen to your instincts about people. If something feels wrong, investigate. Ask questions. Trust the people who've earned your trust over years, not strangers who seem too good to be true. Have you ever had to protect a family member from someone dangerous? Have you ever had to make a choice between short-term pain and long-term safety for someone you love? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the most important conversations happen when we're brave enough to talk about the times we had to fight for the people who matter most. And remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who would risk everything to keep you safe. Looking back at this true story, I realize I made a crucial mistake that nearly cost me my life. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the warning signs when someone you love shows their true nature. Finn tried to warn me at that rehearsal dinner, but I was too focused on Isley's happiness to see the danger lurking beneath Cruz's perfect facade. This true story taught me that real family isn't defined by blood or marriage certificates, but by loyalty and genuine love. My daughter Isley showed me more authentic care in one moment of truth than Cruz did in months of manipulation. That's why I share these grandpa stories, to help others recognize the difference between people who truly care and those who see you as nothing more than a bank account. God gave me a second chance when Finn found the courage to warn me that night. God also blessed me with the wisdom to trust my instincts when everything seemed too perfect. And I believe God allowed this nightmare to happen so I could share this true story with families who might be facing similar deceptions. The hardest lesson from these grandpa stories: sometimes protecting your family means questioning the people they love most. But it also means having faith that truth will prevail when you stand up for what's right. Through all these grandpa stories I've shared, I've learned that if my experience helps even one person recognize a predator before it's too late, then surviving Jake Rivers was worth every terrifying moment. Don't ignore red flags just because someone makes your loved ones happy. Trust the people who've proven themselves over years, not strangers who seem too good to be true. And remember, God gives us instincts for a reason. What's your story? Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and protecting someone you love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that could save your family. Sometimes the most important conversations start with the courage to speak uncomfortable truths.